So good afternoon, and well, we are in January, so I think I can say Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to our second online technology meeting this year. This day will be dedicated to laser-based manufacturing techniques for medical implants. My name is Antonio Castelo. I'm technology manager at EPIC, and we are the European Photonics Industry Consortium, as many of you know. Our goal is to connect people to ensure the sustainability of the photonics business in Europe. We develop different kind of activities to give you the opportunity of finding new collaborations and also to increase your business in the photonics related topics. And today, as I mentioned, we are going to talk about laser-based manufacturing technologies for implants, and we have a really nice group of speakers from leaders and top research centers in Europe. We will start with Laura Denzer from Meko Manufacturing. They are a manufacturer of medical implants, and she's going to give us an overview of the technologies they use in their process and also in the post-processing of the implants. We will go then with Nadine Nottrodt from the Fraunhofer ILT Research Center. We are going to learn about the laser-based bioprinting projects they have in the center. We will move then to Cisteo Medical. We will have Sandra and Robin from this company to understand the processing in laser welding and laser marking technologies on implantable active medical devices. We will continue with the CEIT Research Center in the Basque Country. Ainara Rodriguez is going to show us their projects in using ultra-short pulse laser for surface texturing of implants. We will go with a slightly different topic from SCHOTT Primoceler. Antti Peltonen is going to show us the technique of glass micro bonding using laser in order to well, have the enclosure in really small implants. And we will go with LLT then application. Robert Hebel is going to show us the laser-based manufacturing processes of medical tubes. And we will finish with the well-known manufacturer Coherent of laser sources and laser machines. Roland Mayerhofer is going to show us the different processes they offer for medical implants and also the specific way to control the laser beam they offer. We will have this slide with the supply chain. These are all the companies that are registered to this event, and it's very nice to see that we are covering again the whole supply chain from end users and manufacturing services that are the companies using the laser machines to develop the product, so to offer the service to the medical companies, and then the manufacturers of the different components that can make part of a machine, the lasers, the optics, also the mechanics and the positioning, also some companies related with materials, coatings, and thin films, and of course different R&D centers that are working quite actively in this field. It's very nice also to have investors and media companies interested in this topic, so we can see that it's relevant for the different markets. And I would like to mention that this event is supported by 2 European Union projects. The first one is called Pulsate. It's a European Union project for laser-based additive manufacturing and special manufacturing. The second one is MedFab. It's a pilot line to support all the companies interested in the manufacturing of medical components to overcome the difficulties or going to low volume or high volume production, and also with the certification processes. So if any of you are interested in laser additive manufacturing or the medical devices manufacturing, you can go to the websites and see the services they offer. So nothing else from my side at the beginning, so we can start with Laura. You can start sharing your screen. As I mentioned, Meko is one of our manufacturer of medical devices, a contract manufacturer, and she's going to show us what are they offer, a little bit of overview of the technology, and also she's going to talk a little bit about the post-processing. So the floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for the possibility to present Meko Manufacturing today. Yeah, as Antonio already said, we're a manufacturer of medical implants or medical devices as well. some instruments for surgery, for example. It just depends on the customer requests what we are producing actually. So we start manufacturing after having an order from a customer. That's how we work actually. So we do not have our own products, but we produce for our customers. And as you can see, various different kind of implants in the background already. So I just want to show you a little bit the development of Meko manufacturing. It actually just started with a one-man workshop as you can see on the left-hand side, in a garage of a house in 1991. So, and then like the next step was to get a CO2 laser to do like basically with flat sheet material to do some, it was actually still not in the medical device field, but just some other kind of things. And then in 1995, the stent production started, and later on as well, the nitinol stent production. The departments grew a lot. So the post-processing departments, which you need to produce in the first hand, it was stents, needed to grow as well. So that's when it was, like opened up in the big style, like not only in the lab version. And since 2005, the company is certified with the ISO 13485, so the medical devices certification. And since 2006, or in 2006, it was like we had 100 employees already. So it grew over like 15 years to quite a big company already. In 2008, the laser cutting of biopolymers started. So we got the next type of lasers actually, so the ultra short pulse lasers. And then the company grew again. So in 2021, we did not really celebrate it due to COVID, but now Meko manufacturing exists already for more than 30 years. And nowadays we have more than 300 employees. So as I already said, we do have ultra short pulse lasers, but we do work mostly as well with fiber lasers. As in the beginning, I said we have like those macro scaled applications where we use really big metal sheets. Those are mostly not for the medtech area, but for other industries. And then we do have the fiber lasers with which we cut a lot for medical implants, and the ultra short pulse lasers. To give you some numbers, like the macro scale application with the fiber lasers, we use like 2 to 6 kilowatt lasers, and we like precision is a really important task for us, and we cut with around like plus minus 10 micrometers as a precision in this case. On the micro scale, it's like the beam size is about 12 to 25 micrometers, and we achieve a precision of plus minus 5 micrometers, and that's what we use for stents or heart valve frames or baskets. This is both are just used for metals, like different kind of metals, if it's a gaze or if it's a full metal sheet or a wire or a tube. And then we do have the ultra short pulse lasers, which we use for metal and polymers. They have different kind of wavelengths we can use, and the precision is even higher than with the fiber lasers. And like just one application would be microholes for drug delivery balloon catheters, which we do. So as I stated, we have quite some different kind of lasers. And so the decision making about which machine we use for the different kind of implants we manufacture, it depends on, first of all, the customer demands. If a process is already validated, for example, then we have to follow the steps which are already fixed for the customer. So this is the first step: is something validated already or not? Then the economic efficiency, sure, if we have like things we can just cut with the macro fiber lasers, then we just use those because it's more efficient to do this. And then the last 2 points, the material, as I already stated, ultra short pulse laser can cut polymers as well, but this is not the only case. I will give you an example for this. Here we cut some platinum iridium. Both sides is the same thickness. It's 0.6 millimeters. But the left-hand side is cut by an ultra short pulse laser and the right-hand side is cut by a fiber laser. It was like, we tried out where we should cut this. Also in terms of efficiency, for example, it's the same component we cut. But as you can see on the left-hand side, the cut edges are way clearer than on the right-hand side, where you can basically was just on the right-hand side, we tried to do it as fast as possible. On the left-hand side, it was more to be precise and to really have a good cut edge. And on the right-hand side, it's already deburred the part, but still you can see the differences like on the left-hand side, a really good cut edge you can see, which we needed for the implant actually. So in the end, we decided to use the ultra short pulse lasers in this case. Just as an example, how we decide as well which laser to use for which component in the end. And then for our post processes, we do electropolishing, for example, because you need, for a lot of implants, you need a really round edge and no sharp edges, which could harm the body from the inside. And for this, we really need those clear laser cut edges I just showed you beforehand. As you can see on the bigger picture, it's before electropolishing, it's just the laser cut stand. And on the right-hand side, you can see the electropolished stand with the really good round edges and in the end as well, smooth metal surfaces. Even though the struts of the stands are just really, really small, we still achieve really good results. And that was just really a short overview of what we are doing or how we decide to use the different lasers, and as well what is important for our post processes. And yeah, here on the left-hand side, you can just see a small overview. We do not only do laser cutting, but as well laser welding and laser drilling, and all the other post processes like the passivation, the heat treatment, and the shape setting. And then if there are questions, please feel free to ask me.
Thank you very much, Laura, for a very interesting overview. So now we have time for questions and answers, as Laura said, so feel free to raise your hand and make your question directly to her. You can perhaps stop sharing your screen, Laura, so we can see all the faces in the room. I will start with one question because I'm curious about the process of choosing materials, but you mentioned a few of them. Is something that is marketed by the application and by the customer, the end user, or based on your experience, do you also provide sometimes recommendations of which materials should they use for certain medical device?
Normally, it's just from the customer side. They decide which material they want to use, and in the end, it's just us deciding how we can produce the component with this material.
Okay, very good, thank you. And I saw one hand. Yeah, Osvaldo, please, from Lithium Lasers.
Hi, hi, Laura. I was wondering, does it time really take a difference between fiber lasers and femtosecond lasers? Like what is faster and what usually the customer wants?
Yeah, in the component you just saw, for sure, the fiber laser would be way faster than the ultra short pulse laser, because normally we have to cut as well. Like we use it like several times, the same contours, just to get this really good result of the edges. So in this case, the ultra short pulse laser would be more expensive to produce it in this way.
But it could be compensated with more power per pulse, or?
Probably it could be. In this case, as I said, like we always have to see how we can deal with it in the best way. So that's why we tried out as well the fiber laser and as well the ultra short pulse laser. So we could, but it still depends on what the customer wants to have in the end.
Okay, thank you very much. Nice work.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We also have a question from Tim from Fusion Bionic. Nice to see you again.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello, and yeah, I would like to, Laura, nice talk, very interesting. I just wondered, so Fusion Bionic is operating in the business of, let's say, enhancing surface functionalization using laser texturing, so what I think also is proposed later on from CEIT. And I just wondered if it's interesting and if you're already thinking about applying, let's say, functional surface textures on the stands, for instance, to enable advanced drug delivery or maybe increase biocompatibility or similar. Is this some topic where you see some value in your case?
We actually try to do this with electropolishing in the end, like to work on the surface of the implants. We try to do this with electropolishing. And what we do is as well, it's called polymedics. So we make some tubing out of polymers and we implement medication already inside of this tube. That's what we do at the moment. So it's a slightly different direction what we do, but so not directly with lasers, but that's why my talk was about our post-processing.
Yeah, so maybe if you are interested, maybe we could have a follow-up, a focus one, if you like. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim. I also have a final question because I remember when I was working in the list of attendees, companies that working in V-shaping. Is it something do you use depending of the component you want to try different shapes of the being, modification of the shape of the being at the end of the process?
Yeah, it depends as well on the customer requests, but we do a lot of shape setting with nitinol. As we do have like our own big department of nitinol components. So there we have this process chain with shaping, and if the customer wants to have different kind of shapes in one component, or like the component with different kind of shapes, yeah, that works as well. That's what we do a lot actually with nitinol.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you for the nice presentation, Laura. So I think we can move to if there is no any other question, we can move to the next speaker. I already introduced a little bit in the agenda Nadine, but I'm doing again. She's working at the leader of the Biofabrication group at Fraunhofer ILT. So you can start sharing your screen, Nadine. She's going to present the research in bioprinting laser base. So I'm really interested in hearing what they are doing in this field. So Nadine, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much for the kind introduction and welcome everybody to my presentation today. I'm at the Fraunhofer ILT in Aachen, so really in the west of Germany. And today I want to show you something about laser-based cell printing for soft tissue implants. So maybe you have already heard about bioprinting. So the bio community wants to print whole organs, soft tissue organs. And what we need to do this is we need to have, we have several challenges. We have to print single cells, so we need a process which is very gentle to isolate single cells while we maintain the viability and have their functionality in mind. And you can think about the tissue, it is highly organized, so we need to have a technology which is very accurate in positioning special cells. And on the other hand, we need high process speed. So we have millions and billions of cells in our body and in one organ. And so you can imagine that one single cell might be not enough. On the other hand, on the one hand, we have the single cells, and on the other hand, we have the tissue. So the millions and billions of cells. And here we need a technology which can use which can work with high cell densities. and use high throughput rates to print large areas of tissue and to transfer, maybe some structures like organoids or spheroids to transport a larger number of cells. And how we do this is the topic of my presentation today. In the picture here below, you can see an image of a printed skin. This is an image from a company from France, Poetis. You may know them, and they use this technology already and work on the development of artificial skin. What we do with the laser-assisted bioprinting with LIFT is that we use the very high process speed and the high throughput rates. So we have less than 1 millisecond per transfer, and our cells live with a up to 100% quote, and this is really good. We have high positioning accuracy, which depends on the dimension of the particle we print. So a single cell with a diameter of approximately 20 to 30 micron has an accuracy of 30 micron. And if we have larger particles, the precision may change. We have a pure optical process, so we are able to combine the laser process with microscopy and spectroscopy, meaning that we are able to analyze what we are doing. And this is different to other printing processes in the bioprinting area. We have a nozzle-free process, and you can imagine if you have different numbers of cells in your ink, you may have clogging or something like this, or shear stress. And with our process, and I will explain how it works, we don't have to scope with that. And we have a high tolerance to viscosity of the bioink. The laser printing process itself works as it is described here. First, we have to prepare a sample where all our cells are presented in a hydrogel layer. Then we put it upward, bottom down, have a laser pulse coming from the top, focused to the edge between the glass and the hydrogel. A short laser pulse in the range of 10 nanoseconds induces a water gas bubble, and when this gas bubble collapses, a jet is built, and we will see that a jet is formed, as you can see here in this video. Such a jet has a duration of nearly 200 microseconds up till it contacts the other side, and it depends on the laser power we are using here. So you can imagine that we have a rather fast process. Here I have a video for you where you can see how our machine concept works. So we have in the upper part the optics, and in the lower part the part where we work with the cells. These are the typical standard multi-well plates, and here the colleague puts such a glass slide with the cells into the machine, top down, as I explained. And afterwards, you will see that a laser pulse is focused to the edge between the glass and the gel, and we transfer cells into the wells. And if the transfer is successful, you will see that we can check with a microscope that cells are in these wells and that they survive for what we have shown in the past up to 1 week. So here the colleague is checking, and these are not single cells, these are spheroids, so little balls of cells, and you see that these little balls grow and that they can be cultivated. And my colleague Richard Lensing is very active in this field, so if you have questions, you can ask him as well. What we want to do with that in the future is that we want to isolate, on the one hand, single cells for the generation of, for example, monoclonal high producer cell lines, which can be used for the pharmaceutical research. And for that, we have a cell culture. We can analyze them optically with just a microscope. Then we would like to use analysis like Raman spectroscopy, for example, where we can analyze each single cell. And then we can choose just the positive cells from the Raman and put them into a well, so that we have really monoclonal cell lines, which are really exact from one cell. The other thing is, if we want to use this process for bioprinting and tissue models, we want to print these spheroids. Here in this example, we have these tiny balls with one cell in the middle and a surrounding cell outside. And if you put them together, as you can see it here in the lower picture, those balls might build something like holes, lumen, and these should, for example, can build blood vessels. And if everything works well, we have a heart finally one day. So what we are working on in the future is to increase the process speed and the accuracy for printing and new laser sources. And I'm happy to take your questions. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Nadine. Really, really impressive presentation. So it's time for questions. So I have perhaps my first question is related with the challenges in your process, because I guess you first need to find the right combination of characteristic of the laser, parameters of the lasers in the process. But which are the challenges one you found the best way to proceed with the bioprinting? It also depending of how the material is treated, how the tissue, or which challenge do you find in this process?
So the laser and the technical part is something we worked for up to 10 years now. So we come from a UV laser in the past, and now we work with a 3-micron laser, which we developed within a project, because we want to get rid of the metal layer for the transfer and use water, which is everywhere in our system. And if you think about water, you may argue that water is in the cells as well. So we had to take care that we don't cook our cells, but the cells survive. But with these hydrogels surrounding the cells, we are really sure that cells survive the process. And I think the main challenge at the moment is really to speed up with the process, not just printing one cell after the other or one organoid, but having scanning rates, for example, would be the next topic. And if we think about 3-micron laser, I don't know about the scanners at the market right now. So this is something we have to go into detail for the future. And then we have to look for the cell material we are using. I don't know. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, sure. I also have a question regarding the microscope and spectroscopy. You mentioned that can be combined with your process. Is basically fluorescence-based microscopy to have a control, or do you use different kind of approaches to check the process?
So at the moment we are working with bright field.
Okay.
And it's easy to think about fluorescence staining and fluorescent microscopy, because we have only this light path in our setup. And we are also working with Raman spectroscopy, so we have a parallel beam path for the Raman spectroscopy inside.
In the case of the Raman, there is any damage in the tissue where you are performing the measurement as well, or
it depends on the time we analyze the surface. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So this is really tricky, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine. Thank you very much, Nadine.
Yeah,
I don't know if
welcome.
there is any other question from the audience. Well, if there is any question afterwards, also feel free to contact my colleague Jeremy or myself, so we can address the question directly to Nadine, or we can put you in contact with her so you can do a further discussion. So we can go with our next presentation. Is from the company Cisteo Medical in France. So we have today Sandra Froehly and Robin Vitellini. They are going to present their the process they use in the company. Cisteo is a company focusing the development and manufacturing of medical devices, but they also have some support in terms of certification in case the company, the customer needed. So the floor is yours. We are interested in what you want to present to us.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing us presenting our company and our laser-based technologies that we use in our everyday work. So Cisteo Medical is a company located in northeast of France. We are existing since approximately a little more than 12 years. And Cisteo Medical is a main partner for development, manufacturing and approval of your medical device. Sorry. We'll move to the next one. There we are. So at Cisteo Medical, we really make it a very important point to support our partners from idea to market launch, going through the different steps, as you can see it on the screen, going through conception, industrialization, manufacturing, homologation, and training. Actually, we have two main branches at Cisteo Medical, which are Cisteo Medical and Cisteo Consulting for everything concerning regulatory affairs. And to do so, we are in full adequation with new MDR, with ISO 13485, but also with FDA, if there is any project of going on the US market. So there we are coming to our main field of activity, which are mainly neurology, cardiology, and urology. Of course, we are interfering in other domains, but our main domains as are the one I've just talked about. We have a very important expertise in minimal invasive surgery, thanks to the mastery of microtechnical and materials with hyperelastic properties like nitinol or silicone. To put forward our expertise, we are going through different steps in the evolution of our medical device manufacturing, going through different steps like cleaning, laser marking, what we are dealing about today, laser marking, but also laser welding on with a machine, allowing us to work on different materials like titanium casing, on which we work on 5-axis laser welding. So at Cisteo Medical, there is a complete integration from assembly to packaging in a clean room. We are actually equipped with an ISO 5 and ISO 7 clean room on 200 square meters. There you can have a look on several medical devices we deal with at Cisteo Medical. We have some very critical medical devices, as you can see, where the patient risk is very important and is really taken in account in our company, because it's very important through our expertise to analyze the different risks that stand behind any device. So we have our active implantable medical devices, implants with stents and balloons, robotics, surgical instrumentation in general. And what is really important today are the 3 casing you can see below, or mainly both here for electrocardiograph and incontinence treatment device, because we really use laser technology, so 5-axis welding technology on those casings. And now I will let Robin continue giving you more details on the two main laser-based technology with the use of Cisteo medical. On the one hand, laser welding, and on the other hand, laser marking. So it's your turn, Robin.
Thank you, Sandra. So, as my colleague told you, in Cisteo, we can accompany you to the whole integration of the medical device implantable. As with laser welding, we can weld the whole casing to have a hermetic one to protect the electronic inside. As I will show you a video. Okay, so the short extract was a video of our 5-axis machine for the welding of the component. You can see on the right bottom corner. Here it's a titanium casing of grade 2. We work mainly on titanium and stainless steel for the casing of the medical implants. We also have another machine for the filling of the casings, because we need to fill them with neutral gas to protect the electronic inside. And after the sealing of the casings, we need to test them with a fine leak test with helium. So we do the test following one of the two standards, the military standard 202G and the military standard 883G, for the different test method. And I spoke about the laser welding, but we also practice the laser marking for the unique device identification, which is needed on most implants. So we can do all the different operations on the medical implants, including the cleaning at the beginning of the clean room and packaging at the end, because all the operations that we do in Cisteo are made in clean room for the medical implants. I spoke about the laser welding process. For this process is very often a critical process on the implants. So we also practice qualification and validation on this process to check that the welding will be good and strong enough during the whole life of the product. So we make pulling tests and cutting of the material to check the welding.
So thank you very much for listening, and we remain at your disposal for any question there is.
Thank you very much, Sandra and Robin. So it's time for questions. I can perhaps start with a question from my side. It's regarding some of the laser machines you show. Do you build themselves on your own? Do you have specific requirements to the manufacturers so you can build following your needs? Do you use commercial-based machines? How is the process?
Yeah, we use a commercial-based machine. We bought a Triumph laser station 7000, if I remember well, but we need to design and produce our own tools because of all the different designs of the casing we're working on.
Very good, thank you. I saw a question from Jose Antonio. Yeah, Jose Antonio, please. You are muted right now.
Better now?
Yeah, now we hear you.
So first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here and make questions. I find all presentation very interesting, also this last one. So if I understood well, at Cisteo, you develop the process, an industrialization of the process for other companies to make the production, isn't it? Okay, interesting. So at LASEA, maybe you know us, we develop and produce laser systems for many applications, and some of those applications are for medical industries. And in line with the first question of Tim regarding texturation, I was wondering if you have interest in being able to make a surface functionalization, surface texturing of any of the medical components and implants?
Most of the time, we don't choose the surface treatment like this in Cisteo, because we mainly work with contractors for example, sometimes we have parallel coating, or when it's a surface treatment like like polishing, on the components. We do the treatment before welding, so on the machining parts. But it could be interesting to discuss of what you do and the integration of this kind of machine in Cisteo.
Of course.
Okay, well, it will be for me a pleasure to have the opportunity to explain you better what we can do together. In fact, we have possibilities to carry on this type of treatments, and we produce either 2D or 3D capable machines, and we are specialized in the use of ultra short pulse lasers for that.
All right. Yes,
okay.
That could be very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So thank you, Jose Antonio, for your question and also for interest in discussing more in detail with Cisteo. Is there any other question? I'm also wondering regarding the laser processes. I guess the laser marking is quite usual for a lot of different devices. Do you also use a lot cutting and welding? Which one is more the one you use more often for your customers? If there is any percentage you can share with us.
Between marking and welding, yeah. Most of the devices we mark are also welded in Cisteo for the implants, but for ancillaries or other devices which are sometimes in big, we also do marking. So I think we may have a bigger percentage of components marked than welded, but the difference is not very high.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jose Antonio, again from LASEA.
Yes, now with the video, I forgot to switch it on before.
No problem.
It's good to see your face live, yeah.
Okay, yeah, just a last word, because I have just seen that you are based in Besançon.
Yeah, genau. Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, nice place. And by the way, we just have joined in the LASEA group a company not so far from you, that is Laser Cheval. Now we are all together in the same group. They produce marking and welding machines.
Okay.
Yes, we already met some people from Laser Cheval.
Okay, I could imagine.
Very good. So there is another point of connection here between the attendees. So thank you very much again, Sandra and Robin, for the nice presentation about all your capabilities. And as I mentioned before, if there is any question after the meeting, just let us know and we can put you in contact with them to continue the discussion.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you and good afternoon. And I think it's time to go with our next speaker, Ainara Rodriguez from the center CEIT in the Basque Country in Spain. CEIT, you can share your screen, Ainara. The CEIT is a research center with quite a broad expertise in the very different topics, but Ainara is part of the materials and manufacturing division, and she's going to present one of the projects about surface texturing in implants using ultra short pulse laser. So Ainara, the floor is yours, and thank you.
Thank you for your kind introduction, Antonio. So, well, as Antonio has told you, I am Ainara Rodriguez, and I'm a researcher in CEIT. That is a research and technology center that is located in the north of Spain, in a very small city called San Sebastian, that probably most of you don't know, but it's a very nice city to come for holidays. So we are a technological center created 40 years ago by the School of Engineering of the University of Navarra. And we are part of the Basque Research and Technology Alliance. So what we do is to serve society and industry through the development of research projects between TRLs 4 and 7, by training young researchers through the development of PhD theses, and also disseminating knowledge through conferences and the publications of research articles. So, well, I am part of this research institute that is a multidisciplinary one, but I am part of the materials and manufacturing division, more precisely of the laser fabrication group. So what we do is basically to use ultra-short pulse lasers, most of the times femtosecond pulses, to develop manufacturing processes with high precision for industrial applications. So which applications? Well, those applications mostly depend on the requirements of our clients or of the industries we work for. We have a wide expertise on the modification of injection molds in order to process polymer parts indirectly through the metallic mold. So for different applications, either for decorative purposes, for the fabrication of diffusion patterns or different optical elements. We also make decorative applications directly on the parts, mostly in metallic materials, either by structural coloring or by the coating different metallic thin layers. And we are also experts on the modification of transparent materials, both on the surface and in the bulk of the materials, in order to provide light diffusers or decorative elements for different purposes. And we have also many different applications. You can see here some of them. For example, texturing the collectors or the electrodes of batteries in order to increase their performance. We can also produce super hydrophobic surfaces or broadband omnidirectional anti-reflective surfaces, and we use texturing for many purposes. So the one I'm going to explain here is just a brief overview of a topic that has appeared just twice this afternoon, that is surface treatment of the implants in order to enhance the osseointegration or the biocompatibility or the control of cell migration. So what I'm going to explain you is more or less the results of two research projects we developed a few years ago. So the first one was, let's say, the first demonstration of surface treatment through femtosecond lasers that could control the cell migration on metallic implants. So what we do is basically to texture on the surface of the metallic implant. In this case, it was stainless steel, but we have done it also for titanium alloys. So we texture the surface with a single pass of the laser beam, and we obtain these, let's say, self-ordered structures that are very small, less than 1 micron, and we produce what is called laser-induced periodic surface structures. So we can control the order or the movement of the different cells on the surface by controlling which type of structure we generate on the surface. So, for example, you have here in this part of the slide on the right hand, you can see this what is called zombie. It is an area of the implant where we produce vertical lines and some lines oriented at 45 degrees. So you can see that here, if we put here some cells and we incubate them, that the cells tend to align along the direction of the lines we have recorded on the material. However, if we texture some lines in this direction, but we leave a non-treated surface between two adjacent lines, we can see that the cells in this area are not elongated anymore, but keep their original shape. So something similar occurs when we texture different orientations. In this case, instead of 45 degrees, we obtain horizontal lines, and we can see that the elongation of the cells is even higher than for the first case. So with this project, we demonstrated that we can control the movement or the migration of the cells depending on the texture we record on the metallic material. So this was some kind of lab validation of the surface treatment for implant applications, but we wanted to go one step further, and we asked ourselves if it was possible to apply this for mass production of functional surfaces. So as part of another project, this was a European one in collaboration with Rescol Manufacturing and LASEA, well, in particular in collaboration with the group of Jose Antonio that has already mentioned some benefits of laser texturing. We developed a system in order to test if we could go a step further and go for mass production of these structures. So what do we need in order to go to production with this type of techniques? Well, basically, apart from the biocompatibility and the improvement we had demonstrated before, we need the techniques to be clean, environmentally friendly, fast, cost-effective, applicable on small and also in complex shapes. But we also need to meet the regulatory standards. So this means that we don't have to modify the metal itself, the material, do not modify geometrically the implant. So this means that we need not to release any components or any, let's say, chemical modification of the implant, and we need to keep the mechanical properties of the implants themselves. So these three requirements related to the technique are basically fulfilled just by using the laser process. So it is a clean and environment-friendly technique, it is fast and cost-effective, and we can apply it on small and also on complex shapes. So by using this laser process and using one of the systems of LASEA, we textured a dental screw. So you can see here the texture surface, and we also texture a cervical plate that is an implant in order to be attached to our screen. So how about the regulatory standards? What we get when we make a laser texturing process on the surface of an implant? Well, we make some tests in order to see if we were modifying the chemical properties of the material. And we made a test of the particles that were released after the process with the laser. We saw some leaching of aluminum, also vanadium and iron from the component for the implant. But all the values were well below the acceptable limit that for this case is 0.6 micrograms per implant. And what about the mechanical properties? Well, similar results were obtained. We performed some mechanical tests on the screws in order to see if the mechanical properties were different from the original ones, and we saw no significant difference in the insertion or removal torque or the axial pull-out strength. So basically, implants can be successfully textured using femtosecond laser processes. Cell migration can be controlled and also integration improved. And also industrial scalability has been demonstrated. So this is a technique that is ready to be applicable on industrial, at an industrial level. So this is all from my side. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Ainara. Very interesting. Any questions? I have a question regarding challenges because you face some quite innovative projects.
Yeah.
Do you find that you would like to have something else in terms of tools, in terms of specifications of lasers, in terms of optics or movement systems? What did you miss when you were performing this task with the implants?
Well, basically, when you perform this special texturing using laser-induced periodic surface structures, the process window, so the control of the energy you deposit on the material is quite critical. So you need to control very precisely the amount of energy you are depositing. So this means that we need laser sources with very good stability. We need very good 3D software that allows us to follow the shape of the implant with a very, very high precision in the focus. And I think these are more or less the more critical points for this application in particular, the deposition of the energy, to control it quite good.
Because what about the heating? When you are treating the surface, you are also giving some energy. Did you notice some heating that could affect then the performance of the implant?
Not for this case, because well, when you use the femtosecond lasers, the energy you deposit is it's called a cold ablation regime. But more particularly for this case, we do not ablate the material. It's a very superficial modification that is very close to the ablation level, to the ablation threshold. So there is no heat induced in the material. Well, there's some out, but the thermal energy is not a problem.
Very good. And my last question is regarding the supply chain you can find here. You can see that there are a lot of companies from laser manufacturers, machine manufacturing services. What do you need from CEIT, from the research center, when you are what you are looking for your next projects? Do you like to have collaboration with some companies? What you are looking is my general question.
Well, I think this is, I mean, the the value chain is very complicated when you talk about the implants, because usually I think that Sandra has mentioned it before, that the manufacturers of the implants have very little room for improvement in terms of selecting the surface texturing or selecting the techniques they use. I mean, it is usually the end user, one that says which material, which technique, which surface roughness you need to use, because they have, I mean, the regulation, they have regulated a specific product with certain dimensions, material, and treatment, and it is very difficult to move them from that point, even if you have something that is that could be an advantage for for the final end user. So I think we have to minimize the gap between the end users and the manufacturers. I think this would be very good for the whole value chain. That way, the research and technology centers and also the companies that fabricate the system could go to the last point, to the end users of this application.
So there is still some need for education, let's say, of the final company about the possibilities of different technologies, new technologies.
Yeah, I think it's difficult because they have a lot of regulatory aspects to cover. So it is more difficult for them than for the application, for the applications or the fields of research. Because I mean, they are treating with human bodies. I mean, I wouldn't like something that hasn't been tested properly. So it's something that we can understand, but there's a very, very there's room for improvement in that field.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I
don't know if there is any other question. Yeah, Osvaldo.
I have a question.
Yeah, Osvaldo, please.
Okay, I have a question. Does these regulatory certifications, are they European level or country based?
Both of them, but usually, I mean, at least in Spain, the Spanish regulation is just, let's say, a copy of the European one. But both of them.
But it is possible, but you have to arrive with already just documentation, articles, or you can yourself do an experiment demonstrator and then arrive with your results for having the certification.
Well, okay, I don't think so, because the biological labs we have here are not certificated in order to make the experiments we need for regulatory aspects. But probably we could find a lab in Spain that could do these experiments, and then it would be also valid for the rest of Europe. But it is not the purpose of CEIT to regulate a product or something like that. I mean, okay, that's not our mission.
Thank you.
I don't know if you have any comments, Sandra or Robin, regarding the question of Osvaldo. No, okay. Yeah, just asking. I think, Leonard, you mentioned that you have a question as well.
Yes, I have a question too.
Thank you.
So first of all, thanks for the presentation. And my question is about what are the challenges when it comes to maybe create a more complicated pattern when you treat the surface? Because we've seen that you're basically creating like horizontal patterns in the cell orientation and vertical. And I believe, and maybe you agree, that creating more complicated patterns would enhance osteointegration. So which are the challenges in creating those kind of patterns?
Yeah, well, basically, I didn't explain myself very good. So the thing is that using the laser, you can create a very more complicated pattern. I mean, you can just draw the complex pattern you want with using a CAD or any other software, and then transfer it to the surface of the implant. The thing is that with the technique we are using here, what we can do is in each line of the pattern, we can generate these substructures, let's say. So we make a line with an arbitrary shape, for example, and then inside this line, there will be the horizontal, vertical, or different orientation lines.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So thank you, Leonard. Any other question for Ainara? So if not, I thank you again, Ainara, for being here, for
thanks to you.
Interesting presentation. And we move to the next one. The next presentation is from the company SCHOTT, Primoceler, or the former Primoceler, now part of the SCHOTT group. We have Antti Peltonen here. He's going to talk about the process of glass micro bonding technique to get miniaturization of the implants. So Antti, perhaps you can share your screen.
Yes, I'll try to. So can you see my screen now?
That's perfect. Thank you, Antti.
Perfect. So yeah, first of all, good afternoon, everyone, and greetings from Finland. I'm Antti Peltonen from SCHOTT Primoceler, and we'll be talking about our laser-based technology, glass microbonding, and the benefits that we can offer for the smart implant applications. And as mentioned, our company is called SCHOTT Primoceler, which is part of the SCHOTT. I'm not sure, I would expect that especially our German audience already is somewhat familiar with SCHOTT, but it's a really big 17,000 people glass company that acquired our company roughly a bit over 4 years ago. And our company overall was started in 2010 around this very innovation that I'm shortly going to present today. And our main focus has always been in the medical industry, but we do have some projects on the other applications as well, where the requirements are similar to the medical field. Of course, any medical device does go through an extensive testing and approval phase. So no matter if it's under FDA or CE here in Europe. But anyhow, only now the first project that we have been working on have now been approved, and so we are kind of finally in the mass production with closer to 1 million implants delivered this year. And as with all the industries these days, like everybody's more interested about gathering more and more data, and medical industry in that sense doesn't make an exception. And now the implants need to have more features, like different sensors to gather and get gather that information and get better understanding of complexity of human body, and so allows more precise predictions and treatments. And these sensors become more effective if they can be placed closer to the measurement points, and also it's important to get them as small as possible to when the amount of devices inside of the human body grows. And then once the information is gathered, it needs to be collected and analyzed. So a wireless connection needs to be possible through the package. Ideally, all this is then achieved with MRI compatible materials. This, however, is not an easy task. So, but we have developed a laser-assisted process called glass microbonding, which allows to you bond these glass layers not from the surface, but only at the interface. And we do not add anything in between the layers, and so there's just one biocompatible material in contact with the body, which is the glass. And the seal or the bond between the layers is achieved with such a high precision that the heat affected zone is just some micrometers, and so inside of this cavity the temperature remains in room temperature, and so we don't risk damaging even the most sensitive components or whatever is needed to encapsulate inside of the glass. And when the process happens in the room temperature, we can even add some active layers or coatings, and overall use wider selection of materials, including those that are MRI compatible. These other benefits all come from the fact that the manufacturing happens on a wafer level, while wafer level manufacturing is well-established method in the semiconductor world. It's a kind of a new approach for the medical world. And now it seems that my time is running out, but I still have quite a few slides, but I'm gonna just speed up a bit. Just to give some
idea. It's okay, Antti, we are good in the schedule. It's okay.
Okay, good. So this image is here just to demonstrate how big of a difference can be achieved. So here on the right side, we have a traditional titanium housing, and then on the left side, a glass microbonded active implant. It's from a customer project that we are working on at the moment, and it's the same product, but actually even has more features now, and obviously for the patient as well, it's a big benefit to have a lot less invasive device than what the old titanium housing can provide. Here on the two pictures on the sides, those are from our reference customer projects, and both of them are in actual manufacturing already. So it gives some idea how wide range of devices are possible. The round one is an ID tag that goes inside of a pressed implant, and the one on the right is a artificial retina implant. And whenever using the glass packages, our customers can make use out of these different benefits. It's possible to have a wider number of sensors inside of the package and then wirelessly collect the data. But also, for example, recharge the battery if that's needed. And it allows them also to use non-ferritic materials, and so together with the glass housing, it minimizes the impact to the magnetic imaging. So it pretty much then checks all the boxes of the requirements list for these next generation active implants. But yeah, good. So this is the end of the presentation, and I thank you for the attention, and now would like to hear your questions.
Thank you very much, Antti. We have time for questions. I have also one regarding the challenges, because we are talking about challenges in this meeting today. But which one is the challenge you will say that the highest challenge when trying to go to this kind of bonding of implant or going to this kind of miniaturization? It's regarding how the implant is going to perform afterwards. What will you say is the highest challenge?
There is, I would say, the biggest challenge for us is how established the titanium housing is. So from our point of view, when we are bringing something completely new to the market and really offering something that it's not available or has not been available to the market. So now it's a complete change of the mindset. So the limitations that our customers are used to have when they are designing their devices and kind of not really well. They have the same or past 40 years they have done these things in a same way. So trying to get them change the mindset and look at the benefits that we can offer, that's quite challenging. And obviously, whenever doing something for the first time in the world, there's no literature or a existing database to learn from, but we have to learn as we go. But finally, well, luckily now we have been doing this for 12 years and have quite strong understanding of what we can offer.
Thank you. We have a question from Cisteo Medical.
Yes. I was wondering, you were talking about the glass package, and miniaturization. So you do the development of the electronic inside also, or only the glass package? I'm sorry if I didn't hear it.
No, we only offer the package. So the electronics inside and all the sensors, everything comes from our customers. So in that sense, we are not a medical implant company, but we are a glass packaging company.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We also have one question in the chat. I don't know if Rosanna, you can make the question live. If not, I can read it. The question is, do you see any difficulties regarding FDA approval of a glass encapsulation system?
We do, meaning that it's something that took quite a lot of time, meaning that it's one of the reasons why it took us so long to get from starting the company to this point where we are doing the manufacturing for our customers. But it is something that has been solved, and I think there is it gets easier for our customers to get that approval now that there is something implantable already on the market made out of glass.
So something regarding the material itself. So because glass can mean a lot of compositions, yep. Do you also need to follow certain compositions, or in general, the base with different kind of additives can also be approved?
Since we don't use any additives, so the class type that we use, it's a SCHOTT class, Poroflow 33, and it's something that now is going through the human trials and have gone through the human trials. So it's something that I'm not too familiar with the FDA process, but we know that our customers have now the necessary approvals to get to the market.
Okay, thank you. Any final question for Antti? But Jeremy, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Antonio. Thank you for the presentation, Antti. Just a short question regarding your expectation. I mean, how the photonics community could help you in your development? Are you looking, for instance, of new laser technologies or something like that?
Maybe not right now, meaning that we have suppliers for the laser source. We have even multiple different laser sources that we can use, but obviously working on this field, it's always nice to have a discussion with other companies on the same field. So I think there's my email address on the slide. So any contact is welcome at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. So yeah, as Antti mentioned, we will upload the slides in the same website you register. So please feel free to going back to this link and check the presentations and also the video we recorded. So you can find also the contact details of our speakers. And if there is no any other question, I say thank you again to Antti for this nice presentation about your technology.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to introduce our next speaker. Is Robert Hebel from the company LLT Applikation. They are laser machine builders and also job shop for different medical components. And today they are going to give us an overview of the offering. So Robert, please, if you can share your screen.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Perfect. We hear you and we see your presentation.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to talk here. Thank you for the introduction. And I want to talk about the laser-based manufacturing of medical tubes. And the slide doesn't react. No. I am from LLT Applikation. LLT, or in English, LLT stands for Laser and Light Beam Technology. We are located in Ilmenau, in Thuringia, in the center of Germany. And I, for myself, I am responsible for the field of development and design in our house. LLT was founded in 1997. And we are experts for laser micromachining, on the one hand with fiber lasers, and on the other hand with ultra short pulse laser systems, mainly femtosecond lasers. And at our facilities, we have, on the one hand, the job shop. That means we manufacture on more than 20 machines for our customers. And on the other hand, we develop, build, and sell machines for laser micromachining, and these are often also customized machines. In the special field of tube processing, we have about 20 years of experience, and in 2008, we developed our first tube machine by ourselves. Besides the tube application, we also deal with cutting, welding, drilling, and ablating, all these interesting processes that we can do with lasers. And the combination of this is often used for the tube processing. And we want to talk about the special processing with femtosecond lasers. When we use a femtosecond laser and a very precise machine with a stiff machine base, we are able to reach accuracies of just a few micrometers on the tube with the very low impact of heat, it's possible to realize very small cutting contours, smaller than 30 micrometers. And with the special application of the femtosecond laser, the material is not melted or burned. So it's possible to realize extremely small struts and bridges, as we can see in the picture on the left side. That's a typical stand structure. And the cutting curves can be smaller than 10 micrometer. It depends a little bit on the material thickness that is processed. And this is possible because we can focus the laser beam down to 8 or 10 micrometers for the processing. This big advantage of the femtosecond laser, that there is almost no heat impact, is also the reason why we can process very small tube diameters. The smallest diameters that we deal with is in a range of 200 micrometers, and it goes up to, let's say, 20 millimeters. And the special thing is that we can process the tubes without damaging the backside of the tube, the tube interior. That's possible because these processes work like the principle of cold ablation. As I said, without melting or burning the material, it's more vaporized, you can say. And so it's possible to realize burr-free edges, and this reduces also the post-treatment of such fragile structures that are produced. And the femtosecond lasers are also able to process a large range of materials, also heat-sensitive materials like polymers. But mainly we deal with stainless steel, with nitinol, with titanium, and such things. And when we talk about the reduction of post-treatment, you also have to keep in mind that often the post-treatment is done by chemicals, and these chemical processes are very hard to control. And if you can omit such processes, it improves the whole process stability for manufacturing, for example, stands. When I talk about backside damaging, I just brought some sample pictures here. It's a 0.6 millimeter tube with a wall thickness of 120 micrometers. And what we see here from light microscope is just cleaned by ultrasonic water cleaning. And you can see through the cutout structures on the left side also that there are structures on the back side, and that there is no molten material or dirt is left inside. So it's very, very high cutting quality, also with very small tubes. There are also other application sample examples when we talk about the tube processing. Besides stands, we also can process flexible cannulas, for example. That's shown on the left picture. And when we talk about stands, you know you need some kind of tooling to bring such stands into the human body. That's, for example, done by the so-called hypotubes. That's the picture on the right side. And the hypotube can have a length of up to 1.5 meters or a bit longer. And these tubes are made of very flexible material, nitinol. And there are very complex structures that has to be cut in these tubes to give them a special function, let's say. Everything is secret here, what we are doing for customers. So we just show some easy cuts there in the picture. The interesting things we are not allowed to show. But these are very, very complex and high precision products too. This is a picture of a very compact laser cutting system, the LLT tube, that we build and customize and sell for the field of tube application and stand cutting. And my colleagues just brought a short video that shows some details. I guess you cannot hear the music, so maybe I can talk a little bit.
Yes, you can talk. We don't hear
Yeah.
you.
So as we said, often for tube cutting, the femtosecond laser is used. There are different strategies for the guidance of the tube. And here's just some process views. The topic wet cutting is very interesting. It's possible to have a water flow through the tube to cool it and to reduce particles that adhere to the backside. And of course, the machines can also be equipped with automatic feeding systems, so you can produce a lot of stands from a long 3-meter tube or something. And this is just a short impression. I would say there are some more interesting videos also on our website or on our YouTube channel. And yeah, that's it. That was just a short 5-minute presentation, but I would be happy if you have some question.
So thank you very much, Robert, for showing all your capabilities. Any question? Yeah, I see a question from Clean Laser, Merveos.
Yes, hello. Thank you for your presentation. I've got one question. In the overview, you said, among other things, that you also prefer applikation. In which areas do you apply this and how?
Besides the shown system for the tube cutting, we also have other machines, also for flat machining or for 5-axis processing. So in this case, we use the ablation with a combined with a galvo scanning system. And for example, to remove a metallic layer from a ceramic substrate in the field of microelectronics, or in the field of medical devices, maybe to how to say, to do a kind of surface treatment to higher the roughness or something, or to just structure some special features like curves or like not through holes, just stepped holes with a defined depth of, for example, 150 microns in a 400 micron material.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. I also see Clifford. Can you make your question?
That's better. I think you've unmuted me now, so hopefully you can hear me.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, great. Thank you for the presentation. The rotary stage that you had for the stents or the tube rotation, was that something you developed, and or did you find a model on the market? Because I'm told that the run-outs for the collet holders is quite difficult. So I'd just be curious to know if you had any comments about the challenges that you find with collets and problems with rotary stages for stent cutting.
Yeah, it's not a development of us, the axis itself. The whole system for collets and clamping, that's developed in our house. And yeah, we found on the market some different suppliers for rotary stages. The important thing is that they have a bigger through hole, like a free diameter of 40 or 50 millimeters to integrate the clamping system.
Okay. Can you say which clamping system you use, or was that a trade secret?
Like I said, it's developed in our house. It's an own design.
Okay.
And the clamping itself, we are flexible. We use standard ER16 clamping collets.
ER16, okay.
And also special ones. Sometimes the customer comes with an idea because he has already some machining systems and a special amount of collets for very special or customized tube forms or tube diameters. So he wants to use these collets as well for the tube cutting. Then we check if we can integrate this.
Okay, I had a couple of more questions, but I won't hold the floor unless Antonio permits me.
Yeah, I think you can make one question more, Clifford.
You mentioned about polymer stents, and I think I was told that marketplace is pretty much dead. Is that what you found, or is it coming back? Is there any comments you could mention about polymer stents?
That was, let's say, just an example to show that you can also process heat-sensitive materials. We do this for 2D structuring tasks with the femtosecond laser, but in the field of tube cutting for medical stents and implants, we mainly deal with titanium, nitinol, stainless steel, as I said.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Clifford. Any other questions for Robert? I was also curious about the process you mentioned regarding the polymers that you discussed with Clifford. Which changes do you need to make in your system to process them and to avoid the problems with the heat? Or do you use the same system and try to overcome with other kind of let's say working differently? Is there any different strategy when changing the material to a polymer?
Let's say it depends on the wall thickness and on the type of polymer. If it is stiff, you can use it as a in the same way as you process a stainless steel tube with a very thin wall thickness, for example, 50 micrometers or something. That's very sensitive for pressure with the clamping and gripping system, so you can damage it. You have to be a bit careful. If it gets thinner, I'm not sure. Maybe you use special helping components for this for the handling. I think the main problem is the handling of these fragile and sensitive products, like what's behind the cutting head. If you have a polymer stent that is 20, 30, 50 millimeters long, what happens when you cut it up of the tube and it falls down to collecting area or something? I think that's a main problem that we have to deal with. The products get smaller and smaller, the diameters get smaller and smaller, and it's very hard to arrange the mechanical handling of these products. Like on the one hand, the tube, it's okay, it's a tube, but the very small parts that flow with the gas flow everywhere and undefined, you have to carry them very safely and bring them to a collecting box without damage. Yeah, that's the big challenge that we have to face with.
Mm-hmm. So it's not only about the laser process itself; it's about the complete process.
With the femtosecond sources that we have today, we can do a lot of interesting processes, but the handling is often the challenge.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. I don't know if there is any final question for Robert. If not, thank you again for interesting presentation about the probabilities.
Thank you for the possibility to speak here.
Yeah, and we will move to the next speaker, last one. So it's Roland Mayerhofer, Product Marketing Manager at Coherent. Well, Coherent is a very well-known company in the laser sources and laser machines. He's going to present us the solutions for the medical implants and also the approach to control the laser process. So Roland, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and welcome everybody. Good afternoon. So I'm representing basically the laser systems group within the new Coherent. And so what is the new Coherent? As you have probably seen, last year the company 26 completed the acquisition of Coherent Inc. And in order to emphasize also the photonics technologies and focus on those developments, it actually kept the name Coherent instead of the more 26 materials name. And within that company, there are a lot of legacy companies that are well known in the medical device industry. That's where we can look back to more than 30 years of development and innovation with our customers. There's Rofin in there, there's Lazak in there from Switzerland, and the DNA is still there in the group. It's just that the name has changed to Coherent. And so we can look back to, as we have counted last time, more than 6,000 systems in medical device industry. Of course, not all of them are dealing with implants. They're, of course, dealing with a lot of other medical devices like instruments, but this is really a focus and has always been of the company. And that's what I'm going to talk about. So just summarizing, so my presentation more or less looks like a summary of the already done presentations. So these are the applications that we also see, of course, in the medical implant area. This is the cutting of tubular parts, tube cutting, stent cutting, very famous application since more than 30 years now within the group, where we are only providing a complete system, stuck-cut tube systems for that market. For welding, for example, some bone implants, bone plates that are welded with some inserts at this position here, or some parts that are manufactured from wires, like wire stands. These are typical welding operations on implants. Here we either provide the complete solution or just a subsystem, basically with some galvo components, with a vision camera, with some maybe process monitoring on it, for other companies that then integrate that into their complete solution. Black marking is something we also have seen today already, done with a picosecond laser, mainly on stainless steel, but of course also done with a nanosecond laser on titanium implants. Also here we are supplying complete solutions, class 1 solutions, but as well as also integrated solutions like subsystems for that. And last but not least, we have heard about surface texture. That's also something that we are dealing with, because with the bandwidth of Coherent from femtosecond to CO2 CW, there's always a source available also to do that kind of process on implants. And we are mainly dealing here, I think, with integrators and with partners where we supply subsystems. So those are the typical applications in medical implants. So if you just look into again into micro cutting, tube cutting, what we see over the last years, I mean, it started all with lamp pumped lasers, flash lamp pumped solid state lasers in the 90s. It evolved into fiber lasers maybe 15 years ago. So it is still the standard solution to use a fiber laser, modulated CW fiber laser for stainless steel, cobalt chromium tube cutting. It still provides slightly higher cutting speed versus, for example, femtosecond, but of course with less quality, and especially with less quality on the dross, on the interior, which can cause some painful post-cleaning efforts, basically destroying probably some of the parts. That's why we see there's a clear trend towards femtosecond laser processing in that kind of machine. So there's a growing share of the femto versus the modulated CW fiber laser. And it's a cleaner cut, as we have seen already today. It's reducing heat affected zones, and it's the only solution for bioabsorbable polymers and magnesium, and of course it's preferred for nitinol, also to save some time on the post-processing of the dross. Regarding the bioabsorbable polymer, I cannot really tell how the market is evolving. We see, of course, as far as I understand, it's basically There are two ways. You can do the polymer way for bioabsorbable stents, or you can go the magnesium way, so the metallic way that also dissolves in the artery or in the body itself. And I cannot judge what the trend actually is, but we provide systems for both of those applications. This is just a quick look into the more compact Sarka tube SL, and there we cut PLLA, PLGA materials with the femtosecond laser, and that's the only way you can do this. There's no other laser available to cut that in that quality and at that speed. But of course, it can also be used for metal cutting. That's why we have this Sarka tube hybrid system in our portfolio that gives the opportunity to work with both kind of lasers, or use the femtosecond for some marking jobs or engraving jobs on the tube. We also have dry or wet cutting options, and of course, auto loading is an advantageable if you really want to process also overnight in a manless way, and therefore tube cutting with auto feeder is quite popular right now in the moment. Just quickly coming to welding. I mean, welding is also a very established process, but of course, in order to control the process, you either have to, as we have learned today, play around with the beam shape, but you can also modulate, of course, your beam if you're using a single mode laser. And then you're coming basically from this typical half spherical shape of the welding penetration. You can come to almost a rectangular welding penetration if you steer your melt with a fast moving beam in the single mode, and therefore you can change the weld geometry with this Smart Weld Plus head in a nice way. Can also be applied, of course, for this wire stand or a wire welding applications. For example, if you try to weld this configuration with a standard single pulse weld laser, you could typically melt the top wire before you actually melt the bottom wire, and then the first wire goes up and the other one is not melted. Therefore, it's sometimes advantageable if you apply some sort of beam movement in order to adapt that to your geometry, and then you can weld these combinations in a very, very good way. So, but what I'm also looking into is the whole control process. That's what we are looking at right now quite in depth. Is basically if you look into your laser process, what happens before the actual laser process, what happens after the laser process. You want to control as good as possible in order to provide the customer with a machine that is having a high yield, a high output, and of course, really good quality. And for example, in the pre-process control region, you do a lot of sensing, for example, camera-based sensing. If the part is there, is the right part loaded, for example, is the geometry right? And this is all done before the process. During the process, you can also use a lot of information that comes from the process. OCT is some of the possibilities, but mainly used in high power applications, not so much in the micro area. That's why we are working with diode-based monitoring. So we take the back reflected signal from the process and analyze that in order to see if it's a okay or not okay process, or in order to see if a not okay process where it comes from, we can also apply artificial intelligence algorithms to that. Acoustic monitoring, parameter-based monitoring, a lot of things are possible in that way. And then after the weld, of course, it's possible to check your result. Also, again, maybe on a visual technology. Thermography of a cool down process is used for polymer welding, which is a different part, not so much in the medical implant area, but more in the medical device area or in the instrument area. And there they are looking at the cool down phase after the laser welding to see if there are some hotspots coming up. And this can be, of course, also a quick feedback, basically, if the welding was successful at all. And then later on, you've got the regular system control where you collect a lot of data like system utilization, overall equipment efficiency data, check your laser power, check your beam quality. And these has to be, of course, in our point of view, nicely integrated into a software that drives the system, that drives the whole process. And this is the case in our case with the laser framework software that we introduced last year. Into our systems where you can easily define your processes basically from possible operations, and you basically do it by drag and drop, and you generate your recipe here, for example, with a pre-process control vision task, have some influence on variable data that come in before the laser process actually happens. And then, of course, you want to have the live view on also in the camera. So this is the way we are doing this now in our software. And of course, the ultimate goal is to have all of those control mechanisms like vision, pattern recognition in the first place, having the result of the Smart Sense Plus, which is the diode-based process monitoring in there. And of course, again, maybe like a part validation, like a validation of the code after the marking in there, as well as the control of the laser power and the beam profile also in one software, and of course, hopefully in a nice, intuitive and clean way. So basically, that's what we are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Roland, for this very interesting presentation to close the meeting today. Any question? So I can start with one question because you mentioned, but we can go with Tim. I just saw your hand.
Yeah, sorry, Antonio, I was
No
a little late.
You're welcome.
So Roland, thank you very much for the nice overview. Maybe one question: where do you see markets and maybe applications for laser patterning in the medical domain? Because you mentioned that on perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that has, I think, been shown already. So of course, if you structure your surface with very narrow or not so narrow geometries, you can either kill cells that are not allowed to grow on that part of the implant, or you're forcing them to grow and then basically grow around the implant. So you can basically judge with your structure size if they are growing or if they are dying. Depends on their applications on medical implants, as far as I know.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Because I have two like curiosities. The first one is related with the cutting. You mentioned that you can offer these both options of fiber laser, microsecond or plastic continuum wave, or the femtosecond. But if I understood well, I have the idea that most of the customers still work with fiber lasers, and the femtosecond is still a growing market. Is this right, or?
Yeah, it's. I think it's now almost 50-50 already.
Okay.
So it's really the fiber femtosecond laser is actually taking over that kind of application areas, as far as we can see that. It's just a better quality, less post-processing, and then of course less scrap rate, because especially if you have a really long tube cutting application and there's a lot of dross inside, you're destroying a lot of parts while you're cleaning or trying to clean that.
Thank you. And the second question is related with monitoring, because you mentioned a lot of different kind of techniques. If I'm right, I think you need to combine the information of those techniques with the laser specific or laser parameters you are using, and there is some need of calibration to be sure, or it's a totally different approach. You don't need.
Yeah, it's almost independent from the laser parameters itself, because you basically take a fingerprint of a good, well-known process. It's not a tool like those diode-based process monitoring that you can use for setting up your process. Of course, you can see a lot in those signals if you're experienced, but the process is actually, you take like 10, 20 signals from good welding conditions, for example, if it's welding, and then you compare the next one to that set of base parameters. And if you, for example, outside a certain allowed pathway, the system will tell you, okay, there's something wrong, maybe at this position. But of course, you can also put some tolerances on it, because the process might not be that stable. Therefore, you have to allow a higher tolerance. But this is a learning effect. You're basically learning good process parameters, and then you're comparing the next one to those.
So there is some kind of artificial intelligence as well.
Yeah, that's not in the first place. The first place is like a pathway. You're just calculating basically the upper and lower limit of your signals. And in the next step, if, for example, if it's outside that pathway, you can train known failure modes. For example, you can train a certain gap, which is sometimes happening, or you can train that the operator is always forgetting to put in the second part, or the gas bottle is empty. Those kinds of things can be trained in the signal, and then it will give you, after the process, give you a certain percentage and of this error case, basically.
Okay, understood. Because I had the idea that you need also at the beginning, perhaps the parameters to make like a correlation between the result and the.
Not really. No. It's
okay.
yeah.
Thank you very much. We still have time for questions for Roland, if there is somebody interested in the audience. If not, thank you again for this nice presentation. So I can go with the closing words. So let me share again the screen briefly. So I want to thank again all the speakers today. Laura Denzer from Meko Manufacturing, Nadine Nottrodt from Fraunhofer ILT, Sarah Froehly and Robin Gutenes from Cisteo Medical, Ainara Rodriguez from CEIT, Antti Peltonen from SCHOTT Primoceler, Robert Hebel from LLT Applikation, and Roland Mayerhofer from Coherent. Thank you, all of them, for your interesting presentations. As I mentioned before, you will find their slides in our website, but feel free to contact Jeremy or myself in case you want to connect to discuss something else in private. Just a few closing words about EPIC for those of you who are not familiar with our consortium. I mentioned that we are a group or association of 800 companies related with photonics, and as a staff, we offer support to our members in terms of technology developments, access to market reports, possibility of having networking and connections with different companies, access to markets and to mentorships, support in human resources activities, and also we help with investment, both the companies that want to invest in some spin-off startup or small companies, or those companies that are they need the money and they need to be contacted by investors. This is the EPIC team that help our members to develop all these activities, divided in event managers, in technology managers, and also in the directive team. And a few words about the next EPIC events. Of course, some of them are related with our presences in Photonics Quest, of most of you, most of your companies will be there. So we have several in-person meetings, there, in-person activities. Also, we start in April with physical meetings, technological meetings. The first one is related with fiber sensors at HBK Fiber Sensing in Porto. The second one we will have in May, meeting of photonics for AR, VR at Jabil Optics in Jena. And of course, several online meetings. The next one will be in bioimaging, also in quantum metrology, micro LED for automotive, photonics for climate change, additive manufacturing, and agriculture, and laser weeding. So I encourage you to go to our website, check all our next activities, and register. And again, feel free to contact us for any doubt or discussion. And as I mentioned, we will be there, so visit us. We will be in the booth 420 at Photonics West. So feel free to pass and chat a little bit with us. And again, I think we can close the event today in laser manufacturing of implants. So thank you everybody for being here. We can stop the recording now. Well, after stopping the recording, we also have some time for any other question. If there is any doubt or any concern still in the room. If not, there is no other comment or question. I say